and today he will give the lectures on inventory management. So I'm welcoming Mr. Sagar Gokhale, sir.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everyone. So, let me start my presentation. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
So, very good afternoon, and today's topic is inventory management. So inventory management is actually every day we do it at our home also. So there are two questions like, does your mother told you anytime that you will not get tea today because there is no sugar at home? Or do you regularly have to throw out the contents of the refrigerator because they have been there for a while and now they are rotten or not good or not eatable? Or does your notebook is exhausted in between the lecture and now you don't have anything to write in the lecture? So if you have answer to all these questions as no, then probably you are doing good inventory management at your home as well. So we have a lot many things at home and we regularly need to do inventory management at our home also, especially in the kitchen. Like many things are we need to buy regularly. Many things are being expired or exhausted, etc., and we need to replenish that. So it's our day-to-day job at home, and similarly, we have to do similar kind of jobs in business as well. So if we have a look typically at any industry, then that's kind of workflow. Like to buy raw materials or ingredients, they come from the supplier and then they are stored at warehouse. From warehouse, they go for processing, wherein you produce the finished product, and then there is a quality check. Then finished product go back to warehouse again. It's stored there in the warehouse, and then finished product are shipped to the distributor or to the retailer, etc. So this is typical workflow of an industry, and whatever is coming to the warehouse or whatever is going out of the warehouse, you need to track it. And that tracking of the material coming into the warehouse and going out from the warehouse is basically the inventory management. And goal of inventory management system is to know where your inventory is at any given time. Like at any given time, how much is the ingredient available in the warehouse, or how much is the stock available of the finished product, of what flavor, etc., etc. That information you need to have in your hand at any time, and that's the work of inventory management system. So to have success in any venture, what we need to have is basically we need to have ability to provide services or goods to consumers or users, and simultaneously we need to remain financially stable. That is very much important. You are giving good service, or you are providing sufficient quality goods to the consumers or customers, but you are not financially stable. Day by day, your inventory is going up, your financial condition is going down, then that's not a good sign for any business. So you need to remain financially stable, and you should go upside day by day. And then your success depends on to have suitable products available for your customer. It should be available at acceptable price, and it should be delivered in reasonable time scale. That is very much important. Like if any customer place an order and you deliver it after 2 months, then that may not be acceptable to the customer. So time is of very much importance. Then price is also important. You should give it at appropriate and acceptable price. And the material which consumer is ordering should be available within that time span with you. So everything, all these things come under inventory management. And inventory management is not just a warehouse job. So all these teams, they are involved in inventory management, like marketing, sales, distribution, manufacturing, purchase, and finance. All these teams work together for inventory management. And we'll see if your inventory management goes bad, then how you will go into losses. So inventory management is basically fundamental building block to longevity. When your inventory is properly organized, then the rest of your supply chain management will be in place, or it will work smoothly. Then without inventory management, you risk many mistakes like missed shipments or out of stocks, overstocks, mispicks, and so on. So like you have some production capacity for which you require some amount of raw material. And if every time you go on ordering excess raw material, then it will go on piling up in your warehouse. And finally, you will not have any space in the warehouse to store more material. So that is called as accumulation of the raw material. And that's a sign of bad inventory management. Or if you are ordering little lower than what is required, then eventually you will run out of the stocks of raw material, and then you will not have any raw material for the production to continue. So that's again a sign of bad inventory management. So likewise, there should not be overstock or there should not be out of stock. You should have appropriate stock for the production as well as appropriate stock of the finished product which you will supply as per the orders. And that's why all these teams are very much part of inventory management. Like marketing, if they don't give any forecasting to the production, then production people will not be able to plan accordingly. And then they will not give forecasting for the purchase team. And they will not purchase enough raw material, or the purchase team may buy excess raw material. So that's why there has to be coordination between marketing, sales, and purchase, as well as distribution, manufacturing, everything. So that's why all these teams are part of inventory management system. So like just one example, like marketing people, if all of a sudden they started some advertisement or they started some offer like buy one get one free kind of offer suddenly without informing to the purchase people or manufacturing people, then what will happen? Suddenly there will be outshoot of the sales, and then manufacturing people will not be able to cope up with the demand, and same thing will happen with the purchase, and soon you will go out of stock. And as soon as that offer is offer is running right now, then manufacturing people and purchase people realize that marketing team has started some offer, so we should produce more. So they buy more raw material, and then that raw material comes to your factory. And at that point of time, marketing people stop the offer. So whatever offer buy one get one free offer was running, they stopped that offer. And now excess raw material has arrived to your factory, and that will sit there for weeks and months. So that's again example of bad inventory management. So that's why the information flow from all these teams modeling, continuation of the smooth production. And any mistakes in all these things will not only cost in terms of money, but as well as in whatever is wasted, you have to again, there is a labor spend for correcting the mistakes. Then customers will go away because of the bad experience with the company, etc. So it's not just money, but also the relations, the hard work, etc. Now, when we talk especially about food industry, what parameters we need to consider for food industry? So the most important point is safety of the goods, because we are going to eat, or someone is going to eat that food at some point of time, and that's why it should be safe for consumption, and hence we have to carefully monitor all the ingredients coming to your factory as well as all the finished goods which is leaving from the warehouse. We have to monitor everything very carefully for the safety of the finished product. So we have to monitor spoilage, then seasonal variations and changing consumer demand. Like if there is a festival season, then demand will go up for some kind of products, or with the season, like summer or winter, there is variation in the demand, etc. So accordingly, you have to forecast the sales, and accordingly, you have to purchase the raw material. So inventory management comes there as well. Then changing consumer demand, like if there is a increasing consumer demand, say for natural product or no added chemical products. So if consumer are demanding more and more such kind of products, then your marketing and sales team, R&D team should foresee that change in consumer demand, and accordingly they should plan for new products or change in the products, or sooner or later you will be out of the market. Then traceability is very important in foods, because if anything goes bad at any point of time, you should be always able to trace back why it happened and where it happened. Like if suppose there is a microbial growth in any packet of any batch, then you should be first able to check what was the batch, when it was produced, and what ingredient was used. So whether contamination is at the after processing or before processing or during processing, which raw material was used, or if there is any like extra chemical came into the food product, then why it came, from where it came. So all this traceability is very much important. So which lot of raw material is used for which batch, and which batch is going where. So everything you need to trace, and that traceability and that tracking of raw material, the batch number, expiry date of the raw material, then batch number of finished goods, expiry date of finished goods, etc. Everything typically is done or it's stored in the software, and because it's not a manual job, there can be many errors if you go on doing it manually in the notebook. So that's why typically there are inventory management systems. The softwares are used for doing all these things. So at any point of time, basically you should be able to track which raw material, which batch of raw material, or which lot of raw material was used for which batch of production, etc. So batch number and lot number tracking, we already talked about it. Recalls. So if anything goes bad, then there is a product recall typically. You might have heard about the Maggie thing. Like they had to recall the Maggie because of the lead content in few of the batches. So if you don't know in which batch the contamination has happened, then you will not be able to recall it. Otherwise, you have to recall all the goods from the market, and that will be a huge loss. So that traceability and batch number tracking is very much important when it comes to recalls. Then shelf life management. If anything is expiring, then you have to discard that. Like if there is a raw material which is coming to expiry, you have to quickly finish it off, or otherwise it will have to, or you will have to discard it. So similar is the case for finished goods as well. If the finished goods is close to expiry, you can give some offers and sell it off quickly. Otherwise, you have to discard it at some point of time. And whenever you have to discard anything like raw material or finished goods, then obviously it will cost and it will turn into losses. Then storage condition management is one more important thing. Like many times for foods, you have to maintain some kind of temperature and humidity for raw material or shelf finished goods, etc. And the consistency in those storage conditions is very much important. Like, if it is a frozen product, then there should not be power outage, or the temperature variation should not be above acceptable limit, etc. Or if there are any raw materials like flavors, etc., which you need to store at some particular conditions of temperature and humidity, then accordingly you have to maintain those ingredients at that temperature, humidity. You have to you should have separate storage area for that. So it's a responsibility of warehouse manager to see what is the storage conditions for each ingredient or the finished product, etc., and have all the conditions properly. So all these things we need to keep into mind when we are working in food industry. Then types of inventories. So typically in warehouse, what is stored? All those things come under inventories. And what we have in warehouses, raw materials and ingredients, finished goods, work in progress. So work in progress is like, to keep secrecy, many times what companies do is they mix 2 or 3 ingredients separately at some other location and then store it and then use it in the batches, so that the people who are actually working on the finished goods, they will not come to know what is mixed in what proportion. And that's how people try to keep secrecy in foods. So that like we are mixing, say, 3 ingredients together in some composition, then that is called as work in progress. Like it is not a raw material as well as it is not a finished goods. So it is a work in progress, and then it has to be, that mixture has to be used in some proportion. So that is called as work in progress. Then MRO, that is maintenance, repair, and operating supplies, like tools needed for the maintenance or repairs, or personal protective kit like hair nets, lab coats, hand gloves, etc. So all these things they come under MRO. Then packaging materials, very important for foods, and consumables, like typically office stationery and all those things, they come under consumables. So these are typically inventories maintained in the warehouse. Then what are signs of improper inventory management? So let's have some examples. Like if you have unsold inventory, and that means there is a hot item somewhere hidden in the back store. You didn't list it in time for the season. Like there is some stock which is not recorded in inventory management system, and it remained unsold, and then it is now close to expiry. That's typical example of bad inventory management. So everything should be recorded in inventory management system. Otherwise, you will not able to track how much material is lying in your warehouse, whether it is raw material or finished goods. Then inventory levels are creeping up or out of stock. Like we do mass balance typically for any unit operation. And if whatever material is coming in and material is going out, if it is not balanced, then eventually you will have built up of material, or it will run out of the material. Like if input is higher and outgoing side is lower, then material will keep on accumulating, or if input is lower, output is higher, then you will soon run out of the material. So that's typically material balance, and same thing, same rules apply in inventory management as well. So if your input is not matching with your output, or your purchases are not matching with the sales, then your raw material will keep on accumulating in the warehouse, or it will, or you will run out of the raw material. So these are the two extreme cases, and that means your inventory management system is not good. Then amount of shelfware on packages forces you to mark down the prices. Like you compile so much of the finished goods on the shelf that there is no more space available in the warehouse to store newly produced material. Then it will force you to take out the old material, because you don't have space in the warehouse, and you have to sell that material at any price in the market, like buy one get one free, buy one get two free kind of thing. So 50% discount, or 60% discount, 70% discount. You have to get rid of that older material because you don't have space in the warehouse. So that's again a sign of bad inventory management. And inventory manager is still using a manual stock register. As I told you, the in foods, we if it is a big company, then there are lot many things and lot many records you have to maintain for years. Typically, in food business, you have to maintain the record for 7 years, like whatever is the purchase and whatever you have sold, and the traceability should be maintained for 7 years. So if you are just maintaining manual registers, then eventually you will not be able to track what is going where. So that's why the online or the software-based inventory management system is very much important. So what is the correct level of stock that you have to maintain? And there are many factors which you have to consider, like you have to consider customer service, purchase price. You have to optimize the price. Always you will try to reduce the price of purchase so that you will maximize the profit. Then operating efficiency, quality management, proper level of inventory, cash flow, working capital, all these things have to be managed properly. And if you don't manage your inventory properly, they will go bad. So these are the factors which you have to consider simultaneously. So I'm saying simultaneously, not one at a time. Like manufacturing capacity, cost of raw material, and orders, like order quantity. So like typically, if you have say typical batch size, then operating below that batch size may not be feasible at many times from technical point of view, or from cost point of view. It is not feasible to operate at lower batch size many times. So to take a batch, you have to at least there is a minimum production capacity that you have to fulfill. So you have to consider that. Then cost. So if you purchase the raw material in bulk, obviously the cost will be lower, but then there is a cost for the storage of that raw material. So you have to optimize the storage cost and the purchase cost, as well as manufacturing cost and transport cost as well. Like if you buy in bulk, obviously transport cost is going to be lower. But again, as I said, you have the storage cost associated with the large or bulk buy. Then orders, like many times there is a minimum order quantity for the suppliers. So you have to continuously work with the suppliers to go on reducing that minimum order quantity. You can place multiple orders, but the minimum order you have to minimize so that there will be less inventory to be maintained at your warehouse, and eventually less cost associated with the inventory management. So you have to look into all these aspects simultaneously and not one at a time. So these are the management tools which are typically used So TQM and JIT. So if you have read about Kaizen, then you must be aware about these terms. So total quality management is TQM, and just in time, that is JIT. So these are the management tools which are used in inventory management system, and we are going to discuss more on this. So the objective of inventory management system or inventory control is to contribute to profit by serving the marketing and financial needs of the company. So always you have to look for the profit, and because company or any business is run for the profit, we are not here for charity, right? Nobody does business for charity. Always you have to maximize the profit so that it will run for longer time. So our objective is not to make all the items available at all times. Like if there is outage of any material, that's okay. You are not there to make available all the items all the time. There can be some lead time in which you can produce and deliver. So that's very much okay. The main aim is to minimize the cost. That should be your main aim. So our objective should be meet the required demand at minimum cost. That should be our objective. We are not here to please everyone, but there can be always negotiation so that we can minimize the cost, and cost is associated with the purchase, storage, production, transport. All these costs we have to minimize. So what we have to do is we have to minimize the cost, we have to minimize the stock level, and we have to maximize the customer service. So this is very much important, and balance between these three things is very much important, and that's the optimum inventory management. So our objective is optimize the customer service. I'm saying optimize, not the maximize, but optimize the customer service so that we can have minimum cost and maximum profit. Then preventing dead stock or perishability. So this is very much important for foods basically, because we have shelf life, and within that shelf life we have to sell the finished goods, otherwise we have to discard them. So that's why we have to minimize the dead stock, and we have to sell the material within the shelf life. When I'm saying shelf within the shelf life, that means within the shelf life. If you have a shelf life of 6 months, and now you have some goods lying in your warehouse which is having 5.5 months of shelf life over, now you just have 15 days in hand of expiry, then you cannot distribute it because there has to be some time required for the distribution. There is some time associated when the retailer will take that material, keep on the shelf. It will be there on the shelf for some time, and then consumer will buy it. Sometime he will consume it. So there is always a timeline associated with all these activities. So you cannot just sell the material at last minute. You have to plan well in advance. Then maintain sufficient stock. Optimize inventory cost. This is very much important. Optimize operating cost. So operating cost involves operation of your plant as well as transport cost, operation of your warehouse. All these comes under operating cost. And enhance the cash flow. If you have much more raw material in your warehouse, then your basically money is stuck there in the warehouse because you have bought lot many raw material because your forecast went wrong or whatever might be the reason. But if you have lot of raw material kept in the storehouse, basically your cash or your money is blocked there, and then you will run out of the money to run your production. So cash flow maintenance is very much important while running a business. So what happens with or without the inventory management system? So this is without inventory management system. So this might happen like you have too much of inventory or you have shortage of inventory, like material balance we have talked. There can be accumulation or there can be shortage of the material. Your numbers are inaccurate. Whatever forecasting is done and whatever is there already produced in your warehouse, the all numbers are not matching. They are inaccurate. You are experiencing longer sales closing time. Like the time between production of the finished goods and it is sold. That is called as closing time, sales closing time. So if it is a longer, then that means your finished goods are sitting in your warehouse for longer time, and you are having cost associated with that storage, because you have to maintain the storage conditions, you need bigger space for that storage and all those things. So this sales closing time should be as low as possible to minimize the cost. You are facing poor customer satisfaction. If you don't deliver in time, your customer will not be satisfied. If you don't deliver complete order, he will not be satisfied. Like he orders for say 100 units and you just delivered 95 units. There is shortage of 5 units. Then customer will not be satisfied. If you committed in say 1 month time period of delivery and you delivered in 1.5 months, that's you're not meeting the targets. So all these things will happen because of poor inventory management. You're not adding up your sales. Whatever is the sales figures you are having for this year, next year also, you have not added up on the sales, you are just maintaining it. So that's again an indication of poor inventory management. You go wrong on production planning, sales planning, operations planning. So all your planning is going wrong because you don't have proper forecast and you don't have proper numbers for the inventory.